मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सूक्ष्मशरीरं किम् अपञ्चीकृतपञ्चमहाभूतैः कृतं सत्कर्मजन्यं सुखदुःखादिभोगसाधनम् पञ्चज्ञानेन्द्रियाणि पञ्चकर्मेन्द्रियाणि पञ्चप्राणादयः मनश्चैकं बुद्धिश्चैका एवं सप्तदशकलाभिः सह तिष्ठति तत्सूक्ष्मशरीरम्. So we are seeing now the subtle body. We are seeing subtle body in order not to get a data for a subtle body. We want to understand what is Atma. And for that matter, we need not discuss subtle body. We should discuss directly Atma. But we are discussing subtle body. Because subtle body is looked upon as Atma. When did I start to look upon subtle body as Atma? Well, I don't know. But this is how in every Janma I take this myself as this subtle body. I mean, I take myself as the senses. I take myself as an organ of action. I take myself as a mind. I take myself as a different function of the prana, etc. And therefore, everything, I don't find any difference between myself and any organ of action. I don't find. Even though the lifting is done by the hand, but I don't find such a difference between me and this function done by this organ of action. So I always say I lifted a bucket. So that shows that there is a clear identification between the two. And why not there should be identification? Let it be. What is the problem? Perhaps I may be a subtle body. Well, you are not a subtle body, definitely, because in absence of subtle body, your existence is there. In absence of subtle body, well, their existence is there. I mean, you identified with the subtle body in one state, and you definitely create another subtle body in a different state, and that also you give up the identification and still you stay. Swamiji, one minute. What happens in a deep sleep state? Even though you say the subtle body is resolved, you are there, you are saying, but the prana is not resolved. If prana resolves in deep sleep state, there would not be life at all. Well, prana is there, but you don't claim you are a prana. Are you claiming that you are hungry? Are you claiming that you are doing respiration? Are you claiming any other thing? No, you are not claiming. Well, you claim in other state, but you don't claim in a deep sleep state. Even prana you don't claim. Prana may be there, but you don't claim it. And therefore, definitely, independent of the subtle body, your existence is. Independent of the gross body, independent of the gross body, your existence is, and therefore, definitely, you are not the gross body. Same way, you are not the subtle body. And well, in the last, after completing whole subtle body, we'll see again what is the self, and this is what is non-self. Anyway, so therefore we are looking into this different aspects of subtle body. And yesterday we have started the functions. What are the functions provided by the subtle body? And the functions of the subtle body are definitely, they are subtle, but definitely they are manifest at the physical level. And that is why I am able to say. So you see the activity of the physical body and you assume the subtle body. You never see the subtle body. And therefore, even though the functions are provided by the subtle body, Sukshma Sharira, you only see the gross manifestation or at the physical manifestation. And therefore, even though this hand is not able to pick up, honestly speaking, if there is no a sense or organ of action, I mean not sense organ, if there is organ of action called hand is not there in this, well, it will not be able to lift this. And therefore, you are seeing this is lifting, but actually the function is done by the organ of action which is present there. But you are not able to see that. You see the activity at the level of physical body. So this is how, and then we started out, of course, and Jnanendriyani, Pancha Jnanendriyani, Pancha Karmendriyani, all this we started, the functions I mean. Of course, the functions are going to come again. The listing of every Indriya, I mean listing of all the Jnanendriyas and everything, and the function and how do they function like with the grace of a particular Devata, etc. is coming. But we are seeing in general this, what are the functions provided by this subtle body. In that I said yesterday, this sense organs, basically they bring the data to the mind, definitely. So the world enters in the gross body, and then data, of course, is provided by the particular instruments called sense organs. It ultimately reaches to the mind. And organs of action, definitely they at that level only, I mean the manifestation of different physical activity takes place. And of course in the three states also we have seen in the the organs of, I mean the subtle body also, there are different organs are active in different states. Like in a waking state right now, your position is in which your organ of actions are suspended right now, and sense organs are active right now, and this is a waking state. And of course prana is there, mind of course is there, which is active. Only organs of actions are suspended. Well, in a dream state, organs of actions and sense organs also are suspended. Only mind is active, and of course prana will be there all the time. I did not mention, but you should think that way. So in the waking state prana is active, in the deep sleep, in dream state also prana is active. And well, you go to the deep sleep state, another few other parts of this subtle body also become inactive, and that is even the mind resolves. Only prana is active. So this is how the different parts of the subtle body are active. Well, in the waking state, of course, all the parts of subtle body are active. Sometimes, like right now you are sitting, at that time, organ of action, etc. are not functioning. So, but the prana has to function in all the three states, keeping the body alive. Prana is one which and it functions, and therefore there is energy available for the body. And all the physiological functions, I mean, are called prana. And when the body's Sukshma Sharira leaves, of course, then prana also leaves along with being a part of it. So means the body is dead. And so otherwise the dead body also requires a breakfast, but it never happens so. So when the pranas do not function, well, there is no digestion and no absorption and no circulation, no respiration. And that's how we say the body is dead. So, and then we saw the minimum requirement as some responsibility on the part of a subtle body as well as on the part of a gross body. Some minimum requirement is there. What is that minimum requirement? The requirement on the part of a subtle body is that the prana should function. Not the whole subtle body, even if it don't function. For some purpose, at least prana has to function. That's the minimum requirement on the part of subtle body to keep the gross body alive. And on the part of a gross body, well, minimum requirement is the vital organs has to function even at a minimum level. I'm 20%, 30%, etc., whatever level. I mean, so both the kidneys are failure, well, then that's difficulty to keep the subtle body inside the gross body. So even one kidney should be there. Heart also should have minimum capacity, or other parts also called like liver, etc. Liver also is considered as a vital organ. Lungs also have a capacity. Beyond certain limit, well, you will have to provide a ventilator, and that also sometime, well, it doesn't work. Then the person, then the subtle body cannot remain in the gross body. So the idea is both the bodies have a liability towards each other. That's what I mean here. So the functional organs, minimum amount is required for functional organs to be there. Minimum requirement in terms of activity should be there. Otherwise, the subtle body says Tata. And so, how can subtle body is alive? Please don't ask that question. Subtle body is a prana, and therefore it is all the time alive. And therefore, jiva is all the time anadi. Because when the subtle body is there, you cannot say that Swamiji, subtle body is there, but suppose jiva is not there along with. Well, please never imagine such a situation. Never imagine. They are all the time together. Even the Atma with respect to the subtle body is called jiva. There is no jiva at all. There is no jiva independent of subtle body. The same Atma, the Brahman looked upon from the standpoint of a given subtle body is called jiva. That's all it means. Because the subtle, what happens to Brahman then, Swamiji? What is happening that it becomes jiva? Well, the subtle body is one which forms a reflection of the Brahman, and therefore the reflected consciousness will be there all the time with the medium called subtle body, and so subtle body and jiva will be always together, and there is no question of subtle body being alive. Not that kind of question should not be there, and therefore subtle body is the prana is all the time along with that, and therefore jiva is all the time there, and therefore this jiva, when it manifests, of course, along with the subtle body, when they enter into the gross body, whole activity is manifest. Whole activity of which manifest? Whole activity of jiva manifest. Swamiji, whole activity of subtle body manifest or whole activity of jiva manifest? Well, whole activity of subtle body manifest. Then jiva is not active. No, jiva is active. Then is it the activity of jiva or is it activity of the subtle body? Well, it is activity of jiva. Is it activity of jiva? Then the subtle body is not active. No, it is activity of subtle body. Well, ultimately, what it means is jiva being there, subtle body starts functioning. A conscious entity is all the time required. And therefore, even in Kenopanishad, ultimately all the activity has been mentioned. In definition of Atma, they are mentioned. Shrotrasya shrotram manaso manoyad vachoha vacham pranasya pranaha etc. Chakshusha chakshuhu. So this is how it has been defined. Shrotrasya shrotram. Not that is a gross body they are mentioned. Shrotram means the hearing capacity. And chakshusha chakshuhu, the seeing capacity. Well, of course, all these are possible because a conscious being resides there. Any inert thing cannot function on its part. An inert thing always functions for the sake of a conscious entity. And therefore, jiva is the final one we consider as a being present, of course, with the subtle body. And therefore, subtle body, as it enters, well, jiva also enters. And therefore, Swamiji, but what enters first? That also should not. So entry, if you are asking, we'll say jiva enters, definitely. And because subtle body enters, there is no purpose. And therefore jiva enters. When jiva enters, definitely it is a reflected consciousness. So subtle body definitely enters. And therefore, so jiva, when he enters, then the gross body becomes active. the functioning of the subtle body manifested the level of manifested the physical level. That only you see, because subtle body or jiva is not available for perception. And this is how the whole thing is. Then we also saw yesterday, I'm just reminding few things, and then physical body, we called it as a bhogayatanam. I mean, it's a house or residence or tenement for experiences of pleasure, pain, etc. And then also, and there also we saw this particular residence is only created by is only created for jiva. That's how we yesterday saw in the evening class also. Who decides this cloths, etc. Well, this cloth this cloth is meant for this indweller of the body called jiva, and definitely he has invited this particular kind of body. He has given, see, it is a joint partnership between Ishvara and the whole creation. The whole creation is a result of a partnership between Ishvara and Jiva. Jiva is the one who plays the order. Ishvara is the one who makes it. That's how it is. So you are the one who want a particular house, and so you have a money, etc. and you give a contract to a contractor. Ishvara is like a contractor and he makes for you. But ultimately, what kind of a house it should be made, and how big it should be made, and how expensive also should be made, what are the things to be put into, well, and because the one who is going to use it has to decide, and his earning has to be spent there, and therefore it is all jiva, and jiva decides. Ishvara never decides this house is old now, we should move to. Sometimes we have moved to so and so state. It's so common here. Sometimes we have moved to this state. We have moved to that house. Well, so this is how ultimately new or old, everything is decided by the Dehi. That's what yesterday we were saying. And therefore, basically this Jiva is the one who places an order for the body. That's a house for him. And Ishvara is the one who, out of his earning, as per his requirement, and he provides the house so that he can experience pleasure and pain. And house is something which gives both pleasure and pain. Initially it may give pleasure. In long run we feel that we should not have made it anyway. There are lots of maintenance and so many things. As the big house is, the maintenance is more. As the body is also very big, the maintenance also is a very, very, very big. Anyway, you are able to understand. I need not have to describe. So beautifully said, Sukha Dukkhadi Bhog Ayatana. That's how there are intelligent people who make the house small. So I am just 55 kg weight. I have 55 kg weight. I can move around anything. I have no problem, this, that. Well, that's how, because you have a small house with a 2-room and 1 kitchen or whatever. So anyway, so Bhogayatanam. So you reside inside, and then definitely this is a house through which the objects of pleasure, pain are all indifference. Everything enters. So many objects enter and they come out. Enter and come out up from this house. Well, you don't keep them. Neither you kick them. That's how it is. You never keep them, you never kick them. So, some of the objects you kick because it gives you pain. And some objects. So those are the objects who enter into your house without your permission. And you have closed all the doors and windows and everything so that they can't enter. But right there, they are there. So like this particular, COVID-19. You never want that near your house also it should be there. But it may be there right in the home. On the fruit itself it may be there. We don't know. I'm not giving you, please don't worry about it. But I'm just telling you. So there are objects for which you are waiting since long. And not that you are waiting at the door. Going out and ready to welcome them. They don't come. And some of the objects you never want in your home. Well, they are there, right? They are there. Like the rat, etc. But nobody wants rat and everything. And you close everything in the, all the places, and you find from that, from that drainage it comes in the night and does a lot of, lot of problems it creates anyway. So this is, see, more you compare, you will find how this gross body is definitely like a residence. And this residence, it cannot be for resale. Well, that's because only made. It is only made for this indweller. Ishvara has made it, but he has made in such a way, if you don't want to use it, well, if you want to throw it considering as a old, well, it has to be disposed. It has to be disposed. Anyway, then we also saw that this Sukshma Sharira is a Sukha Dukkhadi Bhog Sadhanam. They are the means. Physical body is definitely a ayatanam, is a counter through which all the objects enter, and then to experience pleasure, pain, etc., well, you need basically means, sadhanam. So they are this subtle body. And there we saw that sadhanam also we have defined sadhyate anene iti sadhanam. So the organ of speech, etc., is meant for expression, etc., and organ of action, in general, are sadhana for expression. So you express yourself into the world through the organs of action, and you let the world walk into through the means of sense organs. So this is how, and well, mind of course is required, common. Behind all sense perception there is a mind, and behind inference there is a mind, because many things you know not by sense perception, then you infer several things. If a human being does not have a inference capacity, he cannot live. He will have lots of conflicts. He lives by just inference. Many things he lives by inference. In fact, everything, even the flights are running by inference. Many things they are not able to see. What the pilot will see, because it's just in front of a very small space. But the instruments provide the data. Various instrument which is in the cockpit provides so many data, and he analyzes everything. And accordingly he takes off, and everything is maybe more than one steps are there. So even sometime Pujya Swamiji used to tell, not inference, presumption is required, etc., because they have to take into account various factors, and by which some of the factors they eliminate, and then they take off, and the plane takes off. Even the landing also is according to the this particular kind of a presumption, etc. So all the things in the world are functioning. Whatever we experience in our surrounding, in which human being basically does this inference or presumption, whatever. And of course, then mind all required. So that's what I am saying. Mind is an instrument, very common instrument behind sense perception, behind inference, behind presumption, behind even absence, behind even any means like words, etc. Everywhere mind is required. So entire Sukshma Sharira becomes a sadhanam for all experiences. And they are all bhoga sadhanam. So we say bhoga means here experience is not enjoyment, etc. And then another thing in the definition is apanchikrutam panchamahabhutaihi kritam. Well, made with the intangible basic elements. And panchikrutam is not undergone any grossification, fivefold grossification, etc. That prakriya is going to come. So at that time we'll discuss. So this way, this is the way. So pancha jnanendriyani, pancha karmendriyani, pancha pranadaya also. Prana here means respiration, then apana means elimination, vyana means circulation, udana ejection, samana digestion, etc., etc. All these 5 physiological activities, they are called, in general they are called prana. A single prana, only thing the air, it is only air. Air when it enters into the body, well, then definitely it becomes a vital part to keep the body alive. So physiological functions are there. And so this group of three groups, each of 5, 15. And then we have to add Manashaikam, add one called Manaha, and Buddhishaika, add another one, intellect, Buddhihi. So this becomes 17. Now we have to see the function of mind and intellect. Yesterday we stopped at that point. So even though it is a one mind alone, but it's the same one faculty, mental faculty, well, we made a separation between Manaha and Buddhihi. Actually there are 4, in fact, Manaha, Buddhihi, Chittam and Ahankaraha. But sometimes what they do is, if you count 4, then it becomes, Sukshma Sharira has 19 parts. Well, but if we consider this, Manaha and Buddhihi, then with mind and Buddhi we have added Chittam and Ahankara. So this here they have just given 2 only, not 4. It's one faculty, mental faculty, divided into 4 because of the different functions. That's all it is. So when there is a desire in the thinking faculty or a mental faculty or emotion or a doubt, etc., we call it is Manaha, mind. When there is a change of perception, also to change, to register a perception, of course, that is also called Manaha. Like, you are seeing me right now, right? You are seeing me. So in your mind there is a Swami thought. And then I keep this object in front of you. Now you have a pen thought. So this change of thought is called mind. A change to register a perception. I mean, the different thoughts are there. These thoughts, different thoughts is a part of the mind only. We have to consider that way. And well, then after that, after thought takes place, the knowledge also takes place. Like first Swami thought, and then you say, yeah, I am seeing Swami. Well, that's a part of a buddhi. If a thought arises, mind. But you say, no, I have not Swami thought. Now I have Swami knowledge. Yeah, okay, then it is a buddhi. So Swami thought, mind. Swami knowledge, buddhi. So that is how they have divided like this, because knowledge is a function of the buddhi, and therefore, and when the knowledge takes place of a Swami, well, there should be first a Swami thought. So if Swami thought is there, then Swami knowledge takes place. So Swami thought arises, that's called mind, and then Swami knowledge, well, the thought converts into a cognition or a knowledge. Well, we say it is a function of a buddhi. And then, so the same mind, I mean the form of a ascertainment is called buddhi, in the form of a determined knowledge is called buddhi. Ascertainment or a determined knowledge. Then, so it is going to come, Nishchayatmika Antakarana Vrittihi Buddhihi, it is going to come, Nishchayatmika. So, as you see it, and then you say, yes, it's a pen, yeah. So it's a Swami, it's a pen knowledge. So that kind of an ascertainment is there. First a thought arises, that's a mind. Then you say it is a pen. Then definitely it is a buddhi, because you have done an ascertainment with regard to this object, that it is a pen. So far, suppose if you have a doubt, we should understand this. Suppose if I do, and perhaps you may feel that what is this in Swami's hand? What is this in Swami's hand? Then it is mind. But no, it is pen only. Yeah, then it is buddhi. Clear now? So it is because of Nishchay. Nishchayatmika Vrittihi, Antakarana Vrittihi is buddhi. Anyway, so same mind, of course, but then when there is a conclusion, resolve, will, ascertainment, all this consider buddhi. And our ahankara also, then our great ahankara, which we are discussing since many days, that great ahankara also is included in the buddhi, is a really great thing. I tell you, everything in the creation is centered on the ego, and which has no existence. Amazing it is. It is just amazing. Everything is ultimately centered on ego. Centered on ego. Everything, whole activity of the human being is ultimately for the ego only. That's how Pujya Swamiji always tell all over the Purusharthas are basically ego trips. ego trips, really. Because so one earns money, artha purushartha. Well, that's fine because some security. Because I mean, ahankara only feels insecure, and so you get the the security. I mean the through try to get the security, not get the security. Try to get the security through money, and later you after you earn a certain amount of money. I mean, your 6 or 7 generations can now need not have to earn a bread. Well, afterwards, but then still this fellow is so busy in acquiring another big, large corporation. He is doing so much of politics and so much so that he can acquire. For what it is? You have lot. Why are you switching to another business? Why? You have enough money. With this particular business which you are running right now has provided you money. No, I want to now switch over to another business. That business, this acquirement is all ego trip. So the artha purushartha initially is for the sake of security. Later artha purushartha becomes ego trip. It's just same way. And if suppose money after acquiring certain money, then you will switch over to power. That's also ego trip. Everything ego trip. Anyway, so basically this ahankara, our great champion, I mean his ahankara ego is included in the buddhi. And it can also include recollection and memory also. That's called chittam. But chittam we are dividing into two as such. Ahankara is included in the buddhi, and because ahankara is one which is an ascertainment ultimately. Ahankara does an ascertainment, and so ahankara and buddhi is taken as a one. And chittam means the recollection or memory. Well, we make two parts in that. If it is a recollection of an emotion or recollection that leads to a emotion, that is mind. And if it is a recollection of an object, just, if I ask you right now, what did you eat as a breakfast in the morning? Then you recollect. Because people forget, really speaking, forget. If you ask me, I might have forgotten in the morning. Or what dinner I have taken yesterday? If you ask me, I may not be able to give you answer immediately. Sukshma Sharira definition I can tell you immediately, but the last evening's dinner I am not able to. So I will try to recollect, and I will tell you. Still, it is buddhi, a recollection of an object or recollection that leads to that doesn't lead to emotion. Well, it is buddhi. But if the recollection leads you to emotion, it is mind. So we made two parts here, chittam. Anyway, that is how we have divided. I mean, chittam has been included either in the mind, chittam has been either included in the buddhi, part of it. So every mental function we have accounted for. In general, we have accounted for, and that is to be every mental function is included in manaha and buddhi. Well, that which is this yat tishtati in this body with these 17 factors. Saptadasha kalabhihi saha yat tishtati, and that is called Saptadasha kalabhihi. Kala means parts. So it is there along with the 17 parts. Yat tishtati in this physical body, which is there with these 17 factors, is called Sukshma Sharira. So this is also a product, something which is put together. We have not to look into this Sukshma Sharira as some kind of an assembly or something. This gross body looks like assembly. But subtle body, we don't look like some kind of an assembly or something. Because every part of the subtle body goes to the respective houses and they stay there. And therefore, it is not looked like some kind of a human form. Never try to think that way. You can always think in terms of this. I mean, some form. For subtle body, we don't try to think some kind of an assembly with 17 parts and some arranged in a particular fashion. No. Please don't do that. So we can only say it is put together with these 17 parts. But as he enters into this, well, it goes to the respective places, respective abodes for the function. And therefore, because like a person goes to the office, for functioning. In the home, suppose he's taking a rest, but for the functioning he may go to the office. Same way, every organ, each part of the sense organ or even organ of action, etc., well, they go to their respective houses, sit there and do the function with the world. And this is doing a function of getting the data of the world. Well, this is doing a function of expression in the world. In terms of action. So they go to the respective places, and therefore you should never think of some kind of a form with 17 parts or something. Anyway, so there are this put together in a subtle form. Well, this is called a subtle body, and it is created by subtle elements. We have seen that apanchikruta panchamahapruta vikrutam, and detail we are going to see, of course, later. And we have also seen that the subtle body is always in keeping with the gross body. This also we have seen. So 5 sthula elements constitute physical body. Sukshma, the counterparts, constitute the sukshma sharira. This is the arrangement. And both are made up of 5 elements, basic elements. One is sukshma, without grossification. Other is sthula, with grossification. And subtle body, of course, is made up of these 5 subtle elements with certain peculiarities brought about by genetics, etc. And that's how there is a selection of parentage and everything. And therefore that selection of parentage again depends upon karma, and therefore they have said satkarma janyam, etc. So the subtle body, the subtle body is a subtle body. Once they live, and suppose say it is entering into a gross body of a dog, then I have told you the subtle body transforms accordingly. So the subtle body, when it enters, why I say it has no form? Because if it enters into a gross body of a dog, well, it is a different size and everything. And therefore we have to simply think in terms of these are the parts put together. Various 17 parts put together is a subtle body, and subtle body has all the senses, everything complete. But when it enters into a particular gross body, suppose it doesn't find a home or residence for a particular sense organ, suppose it doesn't have a abode, then that sense organ will not manifest. And that's how I gave you example of a snake. Well, they don't have, it says that it doesn't have a hearing capacity. So the subtle body is complete with 17 organs which has entered into a gross body of a snake. But the hearing capacity doesn't have, it doesn't mean that one of the sense organ is absent there. It is there. It doesn't find a place, abode, to manifest its activity, and therefore it is there. And so subtle body is always with the 17 parts. Always. Anywhere it enters. It may be even a mosquito, it may be an elephant, or it may be a human, or it may be even a tree. These 17 parts are all the time there. That's how even in this our tree. So you won't find they don't have an abode. Their gross body is such in which you won't find a gross eye, gross ear, etc. Well, they are the abode or home for a particular sense organs of a subtle body. Well, they are not there. Therefore, they are not able to see right like that, or they are not able to hear, etc. They may have, I think they have a sense organ of touch they may have. But this thing is not there. Even though the whole subtle body is there, but still the manifestation of the entire subtle body will not be there, in as much as or the functions of all the subtle parts of the subtle body are not there, because at the physical body is of a different kind. So so subtle body also it is depending upon this karma. So what kind of a parentage is there for a gross body? Well, accordingly the subtle body also will enter in that particular way. And so, so this is how it is. Even the subtle body also is of Satkarmajanyam. So, and sometimes, so that is how we have to understand. And even in the human body also, subtle body's manifestation differs depending upon, even though they have a gross eye. A human child may be having a gross eye, but then the subtle body, but the gross eye has a defect. Please understand this. Gross eye has a defect, not the subtle body has a defect. Subtle body will not have any defect, no defect. Only gross part has a effect, some kind of a defect. And therefore, if gross eye has some difficulty, then a particular sense organ called a sense organ of seeing, etc., the eyes won't manifest. And so we say the person is blind. Person is blind doesn't indicate that out of 17 parts of the subtle body, one part is missing. No, subtle body is there. And that's how they are able to operate sometimes and make the person see. And that is how it is possible because of a defect in the gross part. Always there is a defect in the gross part. But why there is a defect? That, well, of course, it is depends upon karma. And therefore, but then you are saying subtle body also is born of karma. Yeah, that also is born. So human subtle body is different. Well, right now you are able to learn, not because of gross body. You are able to learn because of your self-consciousness, and you are able to learn because you have evolved mind. So it is basically, ultimately, the subtle body also is depending upon the karma only. And always gross body, the subtle body is always in keeping with the gross body. So if gross body is Satkarmajanyam, subtle body also is Satkarmajanyam. And that is how we find, well, mind is evolved, but other senses are evolved in other living beings, definitely. Organs of action also are more evolved, or of more capacity, let's say, in other living beings. Somebody can run faster, you cannot run faster. Somebody can seize very, their eyes are so sharp. Other living beings I am talking. Well, we can't see in the night. Certain animals are able to see in the night. So, subtle, so far as mind, etc. is concerned, well, you are able to do, you are able to suspend the activity, everything you are able to do, because the subtle body is different. The mind is different in a human body, and in a human subtle body. But then other organs of action or sense perception, sense organs are more powerful in other living beings. That is there. Even prana also is, etc., is very active. Like what you are able to take in the food, the other animals, what they take, you are not able to digest. You cannot digest. Therefore, even in terms of prana, etc., also, you may find that other living beings have a powerful prana. And therefore, so all this depends upon karma. This all arrangement is dependent on karma, but never think that subtle body has some defect. And subtle body doesn't have any kind of a defect. Only the type of subtle body is decided by ultimately gross body. And gross body, suppose it is definitely, depending upon the karma one gets, then subtle body also is dependent upon karma. So, in human life, of course, we find many situations, where, this karma is definitely manifest. Yesterday, we, of course, in evening, we have discussed all these things. And this is, I think, this is sufficient for the subtle body. But now we'll have to see the Pancha Jnanendriyas, their function and their presiding deity. So we'll read first the line and then we'll understand what it means. Shrotram Tvak Chakshu Rasana Granam Iti Pancha Jnanendriyani. So now what they have started, this topic is, what are the Gyanendriyas? One, what is their function? And what is the presiding deity because of which they function? Some grace of a deity, and therefore they are able to function. That part we are starting. First Gyanendriyani, then Karmendriyani, and then Prana, etc. So here the 5 organs of perception are, the first is the ear, sense of hearing, then the skin, sense of touch, third is the eye, sense of sight, and then the tongue, sense of taste, and the nose, sense of smell. So these are the 5 organs of perception. And we must make a note here of a peculiarity among these 5. One is very, very peculiar. See, the eyes are located, and ears and sense of smell, sense of taste, everyone has a particular location in the gross body. But the one particular sense organ is not located, and it is in the entire gross body, outer and inner. One particular sense organ is located, it has not a particular location, it is throughout the body, outside and inside, both. And this is very significant because of this alone we have a total identification with the body. So, as I told you, first what happens is the consciousness, when it reflects in the mind or in the I thought, then definitely it generates the ego, ahankara. And so then once the ego is generated, ahankara is generated, then it claims first the mind, that I am the mind. Then other parts of the subtle body. Mind also is a subtle body, and therefore other parts also it claims. So it claims the senses, it claims the organ of action, it claims the prana. And so it has now, ahankara has put a claim and on entire subtle body. Put claim means ahankara has identified this reflected consciousness which is in the I thought, this ahankara or the ego has totally identified with the subtle body. And through the subtle body, now the ego identifies with the gross body. What happens is, suppose these sense organs have at a particular location, like eyes, etc., ears, etc., all this, then our identification will go up to that point, right? Like then in eyes I have eye sense, in ears I have eye sense, then in prana I have eye sense, in a taste, sense organ of taste, I have eye sense, in the nose I have eye sense. But we don't find such eye sense in a particular location. We find the eye sense in the entire gross body. That shows that the subtle body also must be pervaded in the entire gross body, outer, inner, everything. Then which part of the subtle body is pervaded in the entire gross body? Well, that is one particular part, and that is sense organ of touch. Sense organ of touch. It has been pervaded from the mouth onwards, outer also, inner also, and outer also. So even even the organ of taste, so called, initially registered the sense of touch. Taste comes later. So this is this particular sense organ we call the tongue has 2 senses. It serves 2 senses. First the touch and then the taste. Anything which you put in the mouth, first it will register the temperature and then it will definitely give you the taste. So sometimes if you drink a very, very hot thing, definitely then you will not have a taste. And so definitely, because a piping hot milk or something, it happens. It had happened to me here itself. Once I drank a very hot milk without noticing that it's too hot. Afterwards, no taste of a ilaichi which was there in the cardamom the sugar. I'm sorry, sugar taste was not there because the sense organ of this taste was little bit burnt. So definitely the sense organ of taste is something in which the touch is registered first. And not only that, here inside also, if you are drinking something hot, you feel it is going in. If you drink something very cold, you feel it is going in. And therefore you feel the even the coolness inside also. Outer, inner, everywhere this particular sense organ has pervaded, and therefore the eye sense also has pervaded, and therefore entire gross body, inner, outer, everywhere the eye sense is pervaded. So sense of touch is very peculiar compared to other four sense organs. It is all over the body. And that is how, and why Bhagavan has given like this, because so you can take care of the body. Whenever the part where you miss the sense of touch, well, that will be a difficult thing afterwards to protect that part. And because the highly diabetic people, when they get a gangrene, etc., well, and they pick up certain infections because they never know, or they get injury also in the legs especially. They move around, and if they have not protected their legs, they have not protected in that particular part, there is sense of touch is not there. And therefore, well, in that situation, it's very difficult to keep the legs, etc., without any injury. They never know, even the blood comes out. So, because some kind of a nail or something, suppose it pricks him and comes out. Other people tell that the blood has come out. What has happened? He says, I don't know. So sense of touch, if it is not there throughout the body, that particular part we tend to lose. It is possibility. Even if the infection occurs, there will not be pain. No pain, nothing. And therefore you never know. So this is a very dangerous thing. But it, of course, Bhagavan has given this sense of touch throughout the body, and that's how we are able to protect our fingers, hands, legs, everything. Anyway, so this is about this. Now, he tells us what are the 5 karmendriyani. But before that, let us look into a very, because this we will have to understand these devatas, etc. Sense organs of perception are there. 5 organs of perception, sorry, not sense organ of perception, but 5 organs of perceptions are there. Then we will have to the particular deity who definitely, because the grace of whom, we are able to have that particular organ functioning. So we have to look into that. So there is always a connection between a Vyashti and Samashti. That's how we have to understand. There is a they call it as a symbiotic relation between these two, a individual and the total. And this particular relationship is a mutually beneficial relationship between this individual and the total. And that is this relationship in which, since it is a mutual benefit, there is an interdependence also. And there are many things involved, of course, here. And you can see this kind of a relationship in the creation first. You see, the bees, etc., require the flowers for an nectar. And the flowers needs the bee for pollination. And now, other example I can give you is the trees give you the oxygen and you give them the carbon dioxide for making the food. So this is called interdependence or mutually beneficial relationship between the two objects, two entities. Same way, between the individual and this total, there is a symbiotic relationship, a mutual beneficial relationship. So we are connected to the entire universe, and whether we know it or not, well, of course we don't know, because of this champion called Ahankara. We always feel I am this, but basically I am a part of the whole. That's how it is. And therefore, if the physical world can be taken as one physical whole, then my physical body is a part of this physical world. That's how it is. And this physical body is definitely dependent upon the physical world. So, of course, you can still have a certain independence As a physical body, of course, you are dependent on the physical world. Still, you have a certain independence, but basically, ultimately, it is interdependence. And how can you say, Swamiji, there is independence? Because it's a living organism. So, just not if suppose a totally inert thing, body is suppose a totally inert thing, then it is totally dependent upon the physical world. But if I am a living being, if I am not living being, I am a living being, and therefore I have a certain independence also. There is more compared to the inert world. Now, in this physical world, there are many forces, all inert basically, and all of which are connected to each other. Many forces are there. Well, these forces are found out by scientists, and they are which are connected to each other. And within this physical world, there is another order of a reality which makes this physical forms alive. What makes physical form alive? Because there are most of the things in this physical universe which are inert, but some of the physical forms are alive. Why? Because there is within this physical world, gross universe, there is a subtle universe also. And therefore, because of that sukshma prapancha, or this a subtle world, well, some of the physical forms are alive also. And so in this body itself, there is a sukshma level that's called sukshma shariram, which makes this body alive. So the sthula sharira behaves, of course, in a certain manner, well, because in keeping with that sukshma sharira, but the sukshma sharira being present there, this physical body is active. Well, this is not alive, and this is not alive because it doesn't have a sukshma sharira. So this is also part of a physical world. This also is a part of physical world, but this physical body is independent in little aspects in as much as it is alive with the sukshma sharira. So certain physical, within this physical world, there is a subtle world which makes the certain forms, physical forms, alive. Why I am discussing? Because we are going to arrive at the devatas. What are the devatas? That we have to understand this. Now this sukshma sharira, now we come to the sukshma sharira. It consists of varieties of the officials. Each one has a particular function to perform. So in this physical form, the physical universe, varieties of the forces are there, which are inert, but they are working very intelligently. And well, if they are working intelligently, therefore they must be a living being. Because intelligence resides in a conscious being. And therefore, definitely, they must be a living being, and then they must be possessing a subtle world also. So that's how we have come to this subtle body. Well, this subtle body also consists of the varieties of a officials, and each one is allotted a particular function. Like an officer is allotted in a particular organization, is allotted a particular function. Same way here, varieties of the functions are there, intelligent functions are there. Well, definitely, then there is an official who preside over this function, particular function. And this function is due to a collective law, a common law. I will tell you what is that. Like suppose a eye. Now this particular, eye, this is a gross eye. But you can understand that the sense organ of seeing is basically responsible for seeing. Now that sense organ is only able to do the function of seeing, nothing else. This particular sense organ which is residing in this is able to perform a function called hearing, nothing more than that. And not only to this physical body, well, all other, like your body, other body, everywhere. Your eye also is able to see. Not leave alone the human form. Go to other forms. An eye of a lion, or eye of a mosquito, eye of a fly, anywhere. Eye is able to see only, eye is able to perform a function called seeing. I mean, if one law pervades in the universe, a particular law, we call it, it's a common law and intelligently functioning, of course, definitely serving a purpose, and therefore we say it's a conscious entity. That particular law is a conscious entity because it's an intelligently functioning, serving a how can you say Swamiji intelligently functioning? Because it is serving a purpose. Anything which is serving a purpose must be a intelligent creation, and therefore otherwise it would be haphazard creation, and haphazard creation may be useful, may not be useful, but this is very useful. And therefore a particular law which pervades that, why you call law but Swamiji? Because eyes means only do a job of seeing any living thing, any living thing. Eyes means able to, I mean, perform one function called seeing. So it's a common, universal law, let's say. Not, we should not say universal as much, but it's a common law. Wide, I mean, all pervading particular law present in this eyes, right? When the particular sense organ is functioning. And that law, intelligent law, well, of course, is based on a conscious entity. We call it as a devata, deity. Well, we'll see that in detail tomorrow. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.